I would just like to make this very small note before starting the video, is that I've been photographing abandoned places for more than 2 decades now. And every now and then something strange happens, but I don't pay much attention to it. I just notice it afterwards. Or the things that I do pay attention, I just leave it be. And it's very, very common to see in these places, sometimes digged up graves, witchcraft. So I don't pay much attention to it. But this time it was a bit weird, because I distinctly heard it. And I looked around and there was no one there. And I got it also on the microphone, so you're going to hear it too. And you will also notice that when it reaches me, there is a part, the wind is very few. If you notice the wind moving, it's very, very few. But there is a small piece of plastic that is on the back. And you're going to notice that that small piece of plastic is going to tumble and move. It was weird. It was weird. Not frightening, but strange. I'll leave you to the video. Blimey, they've done it again, they've lost another game. Oh. And with last night's football result of Sporting losing another game, I set out to Capela das Conchas, and on my way there I spotted an old friend that I photographed about a year ago. This is a very well-known ruin just outside Lisbon, in a rural area of the city called Quinta do Duque, the Duke's Farm. But upwards and onwards, I am out to photograph an abandoned 18th century chapel. So now we start with the dance of large format. And I'm going to try my first lens that I've just received recently, which is my Lancaster & Sons Birmingham, which I just cleaned about a day ago. I can see immediately that she is not a swirler, so she has nothing to do with those Petzval swirls. But to be honest, I like what I see. Let me tilt and see how out of focus we can get with this lens. So the back standard is forward. Five, 6. It's going to be a bit of a hit and run. You know what? I'm not going to use my shutter. I'm going to go very scientific. I'm going to use my hat. So yes, you heard me correctly. I'm going to use my hat instead of a shutter to take the photo. Don't try this at home, kids. Leave it to the professionals. Yeah. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Me wiggling around my hat was the thing to make this image appear. And just a quick explanation. The chapel was at infinity, but as I move the back standards frontwards, there is this thin area in focus, and the background and the foreground is completely out of focus. Even the top part of the chapel is. Let me try a different posure on this. This is something that I don't do very often. I normally don't put the camera like this, because I normally tend to shoot vertically. It's a bit of a creepy image because what is in focus is just the entrance. So I have the camera tilted like this. It's a bit of an awkward position, but it will work. What is in focus is just the entrance, and the rest is completely out of focus. But it's not a pretty focus, it's just, you know, normal blurred out. I am still not going to use my shutter. I'm going to do it with my hat again. I know it's a very scientific approach to the problem, but this is the fun of photography. You can, you know, just play around with it. There you go. And as I told you, this is a very moody shot. Also pay attention that moving the back standards like I did changes the shape of the object in front of you. In this case, I really wanted this to be kind of a cartoon-esque image. Now I'm going to change for a Petzval lens, and I'm going to do the rest with a Petzval. 210mm Petzval. I don't like that. Need to go backwards. A vertical composition. She's very tilted, and this causes me some flop over here. Part of this is appearing on the image. Part of the bellows are appearing on the lower part of the image, but well, I can live with this. It's actually this part here which is appearing, so this part is the lower part. Don't forget that the image is inverted, so the lower part here is going to be right about here. Do you see what I mean? There is this black band in the lower part of the image, which is actually the bellows of the camera. I'm perfectly fine with that. I actually like the mood of the image, and I like the upper part that is almost starting to swirl like a normal Petzval lens does. I have lenses that do a little bit more than this, but this image is quite alright. So it's getting dark and I'm heading back to the car, which just happens to be close by. So I did brought one thing special to this occasion, because he was killed by the French. So it made sense to bring a Cooke lens and a Lancaster lens to photograph the grave of the Lieutenant Colonel Lake. My main goal is to photograph with a British lens, to honor the person who actually fought for my freedom from the French. It's still 4 p.m. here in Portugal, but as I've said on a different episode, the light fades fast now during winter, and by 4 p.m. you already have some really nice light to photograph. So the first lens is going to be a TP Cooke. Oh, and by the way, I could have used the foam-up band to photograph, but it makes some sense to photograph the grave with Ilford, because it's a British product. 5-inch, the infinity would be somewhere over here. I just went a little bit backwards because I can advance like this, and I prefer to do it like this to first set the front standard a little bit backwards, and then to advance a little bit so I can find infinity here. Pretty standard composition. Grave in the lower 1/3 of the image. I'm going to set my zone 7 on the highlights and zone 3 somewhere there in the bushes, in the darker areas of the bushes. So first, zone 3. So it's f2.8 on the darker areas of the bushes, and then f16 on the cross. Give me an average. Should be somewhere there in f8. So who was the Honourable George Augustus Frederick Lake? Lieutenant Colonel Lake was a British Army officer, the 29th Regiment of Foot in the early days of the Peninsular War. Lieutenant Colonel Lake died on the very first days of the Battle of Queijas. He was shot by the French, which were in the fortified position, in the neck and in the chest. And unlike what happens today, where the body is taken back to the country of origin, Lieutenant Lake was buried here and a small monument was erected in his honor. You can also see a stone in the northwest tower of the Westminster Abbey in memory of Lieutenant Colonel Lake, erected by the non-commissioned officers and all his friends due to his gallantry in wartime. So, here it goes. There we have it on image. I'm going to go for a longer shutter speed just to be sure that the exposure is correct. There's an alternate way of doing a shutter, which is called the galley shutter. I used it before, but at this moment I cannot because everything is in use. It's to remove the dark slides and put the dark slides in front of the lens and just, flip the wrist like this. So you use two dark slides and there is a narrow passage of light, just, flip like this. I used it before. I still prefer my hat. This one. So let's make this there. I'm going to take out my Thomas Day Twickenham, so also from England, my Twickenham shutter. Last holder of the day. And it was right about now that this really strange thing happened. Listen closely. That was weird. I distinctly heard footsteps. I then went to my car because I had the notion that somebody passed really close to me, and it could have been already in my car, which was just behind the trees. That was really weird. Really weird. I distinctly heard footsteps coming in. I guess when you're out and about in one of these things, this is bound to happen, to meet stuff that you're not supposed to meet. And that's it. Packing up, it's time to go. All done here. So it was then time for the long car ride home and to start preparing to develop the film. So many thanks for staying until the end. I'm still trying to figure out what happened. I'm still seeing the footage of where the sound comes from and what moved when the sound arrived close to me. I'm going to go and develop the film so I can finish this video, and I hope you like it as much as I'm enjoying it doing it for you. Many thanks. I'll see you on the next video, or as we say in Portuguese, até à próxima.